On Monday, the champ went on BBC Scotland to talk about his victory.
Talk me through it then. How do you contend with 3 punctures in a race like this and go on to lift the gold medal?
Unfortunately, I'm probably a little bit too well practiced in managing punctures, but no, it was to be honest, it was a bit of a disaster. But no, just have to keep on trucking and keep racing, and I guess still felt confident that I'd be able to catch the leaders and win. So yeah, just give it my best shot.
So a tremendous come-from-behind win on the Sunday. On the Monday, he's on the BBC talking about it, full of life there. Then he goes home and dies. Headline from the Daily Record: mountain biker Rab Wardell dies just 2 days after winning Scottish Championship. He went into cardiac arrest on Tuesday morning, less than 48 hours after winning a national championship. His poor, devastated girlfriend, Commonwealth Games and Olympics champion Katie Archibald, tried to revive him, but she was unable to, as she subsequently tweeted, "I still don't understand what's happened. If this is real, why he'd be taken now, so healthy and happy." Rab Wardell was 37, which is no age to die. Nothing to see here in cycling and nothing to see here in rugby. From the Huddersfield Daily Examiner: tributes to Halifax rugby player Ben, who has died suddenly, aged 30. Ben from Siddle died suddenly on Monday, leaving his family and friends completely shocked. The 30-year-old dad played competitive rugby for a host of local league and union teams, including Huddersfield Giants and Bradford Bulls. Nothing to see here in rugby, nothing to see here in cycling, nothing to see here in football. From the Daily Mirror, quote, "Tributes have poured in after the sudden death of West Belfast footballer Molly White." Molly White was 20 and a rising star in women's football. Nothing to see here in boxing. Also from the Belfast Telegraph, a young boxer who passed away suddenly had an infectious smile and kind-hearted nature, his West Belfast club said. St Michael's Boxing Club led tributes to 19-year-old Dominic Oscar after his death last Thursday. Nothing to see here in cycling, rugby, football, boxing. 37 years old, 30 years old, 20 years old, 19. Fit, healthy, in the peak of condition, and dead. But nothing to see here. A few months ago, I thought there might be something to see here in all these sportsmen suddenly dying, and I'm being investigated by Ofcom over it, so I certainly wouldn't want to make that mistake again. Nevertheless, as we've reported, in the Canadian province of Alberta, the leading cause of death is not cancer or dementia, but cause unknown. Death from unknown causes. This was how it's, you see the way, it was just 500 in 2019. 2 years later, it's 3,500. Cause unknown is now spreading to other provinces, including my own native sod, Ontario. On Saturday, Ria Vanort from Hamilton was jet skiing on Lake Ontario with old friends she hadn't seen since the COVID came along. The friends turned away and then looked back and saw Ms. Vanort's body floating in the lake. Also sudden death. She was 32 and a paramedic, which I mention because it means certain things can be inferred. She leaves a 6-year-old daughter. OK, let's move from the case studies to the big picture. Here is a table from a new report. I expect you're wondering who it's by. Some crazy far-right QAnon conspiracy theorist? No, it's the US Society of Actuaries. An actuary, for the benefit of you Twitter trolls, is a person who calculates insurance risk. And if you don't do that accurately, you wind up paying out a lot more money than you ever intended to. So let's look at Table 5.7 from the Society of Actuaries, showing excess deaths in America broken down by age. Focus on that red bit. We'll come to that in a minute. At the left-hand side of the table from 2020, the spring and summer of COVID, it's not good. You can see excess deaths of 15 and 16%. Thank goodness all those vaccines came along, eh? But then look at the third quarter of 2021. Twice as many dead 35 to 44-year-olds as there should be. And actually almost as lousy numbers for those in their late 20s and early 50s. So look at that, excess mortality for 25 to 54-year-olds, young and middle-aged Americans. Anything going on in the third quarter of 2021? Well, that was actually the peak of vaccine mandates in America, where in a variety of occupations, from paramedics to Manhattan waitresses in diners, you had to get jabbed to keep your job. And oddly enough, that coincides with massive excess mortality among people in the prime of life. But altogether now, correlation is not causation. That's the dispositive line there. OK, we've seen a similar picture in the European Union. Here's the latest report from Eurostat. They're keeping it simple here. The pale yellow is for countries with the lowest excess deaths. So that's like Hungary, where deaths are actually down 0.3%. Slovakia, deaths are down 1.9%. Bulgaria, 7.9%. So Bulgaria's got the opposite problem from most places. It's got excess life. You'll scan the Bulgar papers in vain for sudden death from cause unknown, whereas that dark maroon there, those are the worst countries with excess mortality over 15%. Estonia, 16.2%. Spain, 16.7%. Portugal, excess mortality of 23.9%. More dead bodies than usual. Tell you what, just for fun, boys and girls, let's also take a look at vaccination rates in Europe. This is the rundown of countries. So look at that. The least vaccinated country in Europe is Bulgaria, and they also have the least excess mortality. And the most vaccinated country in Europe is Malta, which isn't included in the excess mortality stats. So let's go to the second most vaccinated country in Europe, Portugal. And they have the highest excess mortality in Europe. So the lowest country with the lowest vaccination rate has the lowest excess mortality, and the country with the highest vaccination rate has the highest excess mortality. But altogether now, correlation is not causation. So what's going on? Jamie Jenkins is our stats man, formerly the man who crunched the big health numbers at the Office of National Statistics. And these figures, these European numbers and these American numbers, are similar to what we're seeing in the UK too. Middle-aged people, young people dying young.
Yeah, and they're a cause for alarm. I think with the European numbers, I think the map that was shown was for June. I think Bulgaria did actually start seeing large numbers of excesses earlier on in the year. So I think if you look over the longer period, you will see Bulgaria having some of those excesses. But the general trend of what we're seeing is pretty much what we got in the UK. And we talked, I think, recently, Mark, about the excess deaths. And I think some of the other parts of the media are starting to wake up on this because we're starting seeing newspapers starting to cover it. And even the likes of the BBC are starting to talk a little bit about it. So you seem to be setting a trend here that people are actually looking to talk about this. Now, I've been looking at the numbers myself over the last week. Remember, I think about a month ago, Mark, we had the ONS monthly figures for June. And the only cause of death that was above average when you compare it to the 5 years and you age standardised was kind of cause unknown. It was those symptoms, signs and ill-defined conditions. We've had the latest set of figures for July now this month, exactly the same again. So another month, and cause unknown is the only cause in the UK or England and Wales where we're seeing deaths above that 5-year average. Now, that's if you take the whole of 2022 together, that's what we're seeing there as well. Now, if you take the overall picture, Mark,